The return. Officer Sarah Chen rubbed her eyes, fighting off fatigue as she monitored the quantum scanner array aboard the Galactic Council patrol ship Vigilant. Another routine shift on the borders of Council space, watching for smugglers and pirates who rarely appeared. The scanner's soft blue glow painted her face in ethereal light as she began composing her end-of-shift report. The first anomaly appeared at 2:37 Council Standard Time, a brief flicker at the edge of scanner range. Chen almost missed it, attributing the blip to sensor ghost common in this sector. But then another appeared. And another. Within seconds, her screen filled with dozens of contact signatures, each one larger than any ship in the Council's database. Captain Vex. Chen called out, her voice cutting through the bridge's quiet hum. Multiple contacts, bearing 227 Mark 043. Configuration unknown. Captain Vex, a tall Centaurian with silver-scaled skin, glided across the bridge to Chen's station. His compound eyes narrowed as he studied the readings. How many? Initial count shows. Chen's voice faltered. Sir, I'm reading over 300 capital-class vessels. Energy signatures are off the charts. The bridge fell silent as the first visual feeds came through. The ships were beautiful in a terrifying way, sleek black hulls adorned with pulsing blue energy lines that seemed to defy known physics. But it was the symbol emblazoned on their sides that caused Captain Vex's scales to pale, a stylized image of Earth's continents surrounded by stars. Impossible, Vex whispered. Open a secure channel to Council Command. Priority 1. Before Chen could comply, every screen on the bridge flickered and changed. A human face appeared, male, older, wearing a black uniform unlike anything in Council records. His eyes held 3 millennia of cold purpose. This is Admiral James Stone of the Human Liberation Fleet, the man said, his voice carrying the weight of centuries. Your sensors have already detected our first wave. Be advised that this represents less than 5% of our total forces. Captain Vex straightened, trying to project authority he no longer felt. This is Captain Vex of the Galactic Council. These sectors are restricted. Identity yourself properly or what, Captain? Stone's smile held no warmth. Will you call for reinforcements? They won't come. Right now, every Council world, every station, every ship is receiving this same transmission. Your quantum communication networks belong to us now. They have for years. Chen's hands flew across her console, confirming the Admiral's words. Every channel, every frequency carried the same transmission. Even the Council's most secure networks had been compromised. 3,000 years ago, Stone continued, your Council tried to destroy humanity. They waited until we trusted them, until we believed in their offers of peace and fellowship. Then they struck, using a planet-killer weapon to reduce Earth to asteroids. The Admiral leaned forward, his face filling the screens. But 10,000 of us escaped in generation ships. We found new homes in the dark spaces beyond your borders. We built. We grew. We remembered. And now, after 3,000 years of preparation, we've returned. Visual feeds showed more ships appearing, their black hulls seeming to drink in starlight. Energy readings from any single vessel exceeded the output of entire Council battle fleets. You have 24 hours, Stone declared. Surrender the Council members who ordered Earth's destruction. Yes, we know they're still alive. We know about their life extension technology. We know where they're hiding. Surrender them, along with all military installations and weapons. Prepare to face justice for crimes against humanity. Captain Vex found his voice. And if we refuse? Then we will dismantle your civilization piece by piece. We will not harm civilians, we're not monsters like your Council. But we will destroy every military base, every weapons platform, every Council facility until nothing remains of your power. Stone's eyes burned with the accumulated rage of countless generations. 3,000 years ago, humanity asked to join your council in peace. You responded with genocide. Now we return, not asking to join, but offering you a choice, surrender or be defeated. There will not be a third option. The transmission cut off, leaving the bridge in silence. Outside the viewports, the human fleet hung in space like a promise of judgment. Chen looked at her captain, seeing her own fear reflected in his compound eyes. Orders, sir. Captain Vex stared at the massive fleet. In 3,000 years of service, the Council had mapped, explored, and dominated known space. They had encountered thousands of species, conquered hundreds of worlds, built an empire that spanned galaxies. And now, in a single day, everything had changed. Send word to command, he said quietly. Tell them the children of Earth have returned. And this time, they're not the ones who should be afraid. As the Vigilant transmitted its report, more human ships continued to appear, their numbers beyond counting. 3,000 years of exile had ended. Humanity had returned to reclaim their place in the galaxy, carrying with them technologies and powers the Council could barely comprehend. The countdown to judgment had begun. The Council's reckoning. High Counselor Zaraved watched chaos unfold in the great chamber of Capital Prime. 500 representatives from across the Galactic Council's territory shouted over each other, their voices echoing off the crystalline walls. Some demanded immediate military action. Others called for unconditional surrender. A few simply wept. Silence. Zaraved's voice cut through the din, enhanced by the chamber's acoustics. Her 4 arms raised in the traditional gesture of authority. The Council will have order. The chamber gradually quieted, though tension crackled through the air like static before a storm. Zaraved's outer eyes scanned the assembled representatives while her inner eyes focused on the holographic displays showing the human fleet's positions. In 12 hours since their arrival, they had made no aggressive moves. They simply waited, their ships forming an ever-growing web across Council space. First Speaker Kraltox has the floor, Zaraved announced, gesturing to the ancient Arxian who had served on the Council for over 2,000 years. Kraltox's crystalline form caught the chamber's light as he rose. We face extinction, he began without preamble. I have reviewed the preliminary analysis of human technology. Their smallest support vessels outclass our most advanced dreadnoughts. Their energy signatures suggest weapons that could crack planets. And their quantum computing capabilities. He paused. They didn't just hack our networks. They've been inside them for centuries, gathering intelligence, mapping our weaknesses. Then we strike first. General Vox UR shouted from his seat. The militant's carapace flashed aggressive patterns. We have 10,000 ships. We can die gloriously, interrupted Ambassador LYX, her bioluminescent tentacles pulsing with derision. Did you not hear First Speaker Kraltox? One human vessel could destroy our entire fleet. They have thousands. What I want to know, came a quiet voice from the back, is how they did it. All eyes turned to Science Minister Pell, the diminutive Thoughtweaver's neural filaments writhing with curiosity. 3,000 years ago, they were barely able to reach their own moon. Now they possess technology that makes ours look primitive. How? Zaraved activated the central hologram, displaying historical records from Earth's destruction. We underestimated them then, she said. The Council of that era saw humanity's rapid advancement as a threat. In 300 years, they had progressed from primitive combustion engines to faster-than-light travel. Their rate of technological development was unprecedented. And instead of welcoming such potential, Ambassador LYX added, we tried to destroy them. Proving their worst fears about us correct. The chamber's displays suddenly flickered, causing several representatives to cry out in alarm. Admiral Stone's face appeared again, but this time he wasn't alone. Behind him stood a diverse group of humans in similar uniforms. Your time is half expired, Stone announced without preamble. To demonstrate our resolve, we are sending you this. The display split, showing a massive space station on the edge of Council space. Fortress Station Alpha 7, your most heavily defended military installation. Home to 50,000 personnel and your most advanced weapons research. Before anyone could respond, the station vanished in a flash of blue light. When the flash faded, nothing remained, no debris, no energy signature, nothing. As if it had never existed. We evacuated all personnel first, Stone continued calmly. As promised, we will not harm civilians. But your military assets are another matter. You now have 11 hours remaining. Use them wisely. The transmission cut off. The council chamber erupted again, but this time in pure terror. Fortress Alpha 7 had been considered impregnable, protected by shields that could withstand supernovas. The humans had erased it as easily as wiping dust from a table. High Counselor, First Speaker Krautox's voice carried an unfamiliar emotion, fear. We must contact the Eternals. A hush fell over the chamber. The Eternals, the 7 council members who had ordered Earth's destruction, hadn't been seen in public for over 2,000 years. Their life extension technology had kept them alive, hidden away in secret facilities across Council space. They are the architects of this catastrophe, Krautox continued. Perhaps they know something about humanity that could help us. You assume they'll help, Ambassador Elwax countered. They've hidden for millennia, hoarding their life extension technology, ruling from shadows. Why would they risk exposure now? Zaraved raised all 4 arms again, commanding attention. We don't have a choice. Humanity's capabilities exceed anything in our history. They've had 3,000 years to plan this moment. We need the Eternals' knowledge. She activated her neural link to Council security. Execute Protocol Omega Black. Find the Eternals. By my authority as High Counselor, their sanctuary status is revoked. As her orders went out, Zaraved studied the tactical displays. The human fleet had grown to over 10,000 ships, each one a testament to 3 millennia of focused technological development. Their weapons could apparently ignore shields and defensive systems that the Council had considered absolute. Their computers had infiltrated networks believed impenetrable. What else can you tell us about their capabilities? She asked Science Minister Pell. The Thoughtweaver's neural filaments twisted in complex patterns. Their ships appear to manipulate spacetime itself. The energy readings suggest they've mastered zero-point energy extraction. Their computational systems operate on principles we can barely detect, let alone understand. And these are just their visible capabilities. Meaning, Pell's voice carried a note of scientific awe, that in 3,000 years of isolation, they've advanced far beyond what we thought possible. The humans we feared. The ones we tried to destroy. They were children compared to what they've become. The chamber's displays showed more human ships arriving, their black holes and blue energy lines forming patterns that seemed to mock the laws of physics. They had positioned themselves near every major council world, every strategic facility, every military base. They could destroy it all with a thought. 10 hours remained until humanity's deadline. 10 hours to find the Eternals, to uncover their secrets, to somehow prevent the complete dismantling of a civilization that had ruled known space for 10,000 years. 10 hours to face judgment for a crime committed 3 millennia ago. In the Great Chamber of Capital Prime, 500 representatives of the most powerful empire in known space faced a terrible realization: they were no longer the masters of their own destiny. Humanity had returned, and this time, they held all the power. The Eternals. Deep beneath the surface of Nexus Prime, in a chamber that officially didn't exist, 7 beings met for the first time in over 2 centuries. They were the Eternals, the original council members who had ordered Earth's destruction. Their life extension technology had kept them alive and young, but it hadn't preserved their peace of mind. They found us, Eternal Prime Shivar said, his perfectly preserved features twisted with worry. After all these years, they actually found us. The chamber, carved from living crystal and powered by quantum generators, had been their sanctuary. Now it felt like a tomb. On floating screens around them, they watched the human fleet's inexorable advance through Council space. Of course they found us, Eternal Justice Miraven sneered. Her silver skin hadn't aged a day in 3,000 years, but her eyes showed the weight of millennia. They've been inside our networks for centuries. Every secret, every hidden facility, every encrypted message, they've seen it all. What I want to know, Eternal Science Darlon interrupted, his crystalline form refracting light in agitated patterns, is how they advanced so quickly. Their technological progress defies all known development curves. The youngest of the Eternals, War Master Kex, laughed bitterly. Isn't it obvious? We gave them the perfect motivation. Absolute unity of purpose. An entire civilization focused on a single goal, survival and revenge. On the screens, another military installation vanished in a flash of blue light. The humans were systematically erasing the Council's defensive capabilities, making good on their threats. We should run, suggested Eternal Commerce Yixtal, her tentacles writhing with anxiety. We have hidden facilities beyond the rim. Ships that no one knows about. We could. They would find us, interrupted Eternal Wisdom Anivor. Her physical form had remained unchanged for 3 millennia, but her voice carried exhaustion. They found us here, in the heart of Council space, behind every defense and deception we could devise. There is nowhere left to hide. The 7th Eternal, Law Speaker Kronvex, had remained silent until now. Perhaps, he said slowly, it's time we faced what we did. The others turned to him in shock. Kronvex had been the strongest advocate for Earth's destruction 3,000 years ago. His arguments had swayed the final vote. We acted out of fear, he continued. We saw humanity's potential and it terrified us. Their creativity, their adaptability, their drive to explore and understand, we convinced ourselves these were threats. But we were wrong. Wrong? Shivar exploded. They're dismantling our civilization piece by piece. They've developed technology that makes us look primitive. Everything we feared about them has come true. No, Kronvex said quietly. What we feared was their potential as enemies. What we failed to imagine was their potential as allies. Look at what they've accomplished in exile. Imagine if we had welcomed them instead of trying to destroy them. Imagine if we had combined their innovation with our experience, their drive with our wisdom. A new alert flashed across the screens. Council security forces were approaching their sanctuary, following High Counselor Zaraved's orders to find them. It doesn't matter now, Miraven said bitterly. They'll never trust us again. 3,000 years of hatred don't just disappear. Perhaps not, Kronvex agreed. But we can still choose how we face judgment. Before anyone could respond, the chamber's quantum-encrypted doors disintegrated. Council security forces poured in, led by High Counselor Zaraved herself. Her 4 arms held ceremonial weapons, but her eyes showed respect for the ancient beings before her. Eternals, she announced formally. By authority of the Grand Council, you are summoned to answer for crimes committed against humanity. You can't seriously be considering surrendering us, Shivar protested. We built the council. We committed genocide, Kronvex interrupted, standing. We acted out of fear and pride, and we've hidden from the consequences for 3,000 years. No more. One by one, the other Eternals stood. They had ruled from shadows for millennia, guiding the Council's development while hiding from their greatest mistake. Now that mistake had returned, armed with technology that made their greatest achievements look like children's toys. As Council security escorted them out, the screens showed more human ships arriving. Their black hulls seemed to drink in starlight, their blue energy lines pulsing with power that defied known physics. They were living proof of humanity's potential, the same potential that had frightened the Eternals so long ago. 3,000 years, Kronvex mused as they walked. We gave them 3,000 years to grow stronger, to advance beyond our understanding, to nurse their hatred. And now we must face the consequences. In orbit above, Admiral Stone watched as Council security transported the Eternals to a neutral meeting ground. His fleet sensors penetrated every defense, monitored every transmission, tracked every movement. The humans had waited 3 millennia for this moment. The Eternals are in custody, his executive officer reported. The Council is ready to begin negotiations. Stone nodded, his eyes fixed on the tactical displays. In 3,000 years, humanity had expanded beyond anyone's imagining. They had built empires in dark space, developed technologies that the Council couldn't comprehend, prepared for this moment of judgment. Send word to the other fleets, he ordered. Phase 1 is complete. Prepare for Phase 2. The real reckoning was about to begin. The trial. The Grand Hall of Justice on Neutral Station 7 fell silent as the 7 Eternals were led in. The massive chamber, hastily converted for this unprecedented trial, held representatives from both the Council and humanity. The contrast was stark, Council members in their ornate robes of office, humans in sleek black uniforms that seemed to absorb light. Admiral Stone sat at the prosecution table, his presence a reminder of humanity's overwhelming military superiority. Beside him sat Dr. Sarah Chen, descendant of the original generation ship survivors and humanity's foremost expert on Council history. This tribunal is now in session, announced the chosen mediator, a member of the ancient arbitrator species, known for their absolute neutrality. We are here to judge crimes committed 3,000 years ago against the human species. The charges were read: genocide, attempted extinction of a sentient species, violation of peace treaties, and crimes against galactic civilization. The evidence was overwhelming, complete records preserved by both the Council and humanity. Before we begin, Admiral Stone stood, we have a demonstration. He nodded to a technical officer, who activated a holographic display. This is a complete simulation of the attack on Earth, reconstructed from Council records and our own observations. The chamber watched in horror as the past played out before them. The Council fleet arriving under the pretense of a ceremonial visit. The planet-killer weapon deploying without warning. Earth's final moments as it shattered into asteroid fragments. 300 billion lives, Stone said quietly. Men, women, children. An entire world destroyed because you feared what we might become. Eternal Prime Shivar stood, his perfect features twisted with defiance. We acted to protect the galaxy. Your species was advancing too quickly, developing technologies too rapidly. You were unpredictable, dangerous. We were children. Dr. Chen interrupted, her voice sharp with 3,000 years of inherited pain. We had barely reached the stars. Our technology was primitive compared to yours. We trusted you, believed in your promises of peace and fellowship. And look at what you became. Shivar gestured at the human delegation. Look at your ships, your weapons. You prove we were right to fear you. No, came a quiet voice. Eternal Law Speaker Kronvex stood slowly. We proved ourselves wrong in the worst possible way. He turned to face the human delegation. We feared your potential as enemies so much that we made enemies of you. Everything you've become, your unity, your advancement, your power, we caused this. Our fear and pride drove you to become exactly what we feared. The chamber fell silent. Kronvex continued, his voice carrying 3,000 years of regret. I was the one who cast the deciding vote. I convinced the others that humanity was too dangerous to allow to develop naturally. I ordered the planet killer deployed. The responsibility is mine. Dr. Chen studied him carefully. You've had 3,000 years to reflect on this decision. What have you learned? That fear is the poorest advisor, Kronvex replied. That attempting to destroy what we don't understand only proves our own barbarism. That in trying to prevent humanity from becoming a threat, we guaranteed it. Admiral Stone stood again. You speak of learning, of regret. But actions have consequences. 300 billion dead. A planet destroyed. 3,000 years of exile. What punishment could possibly fit such crimes? The chamber erupted in debate. Council members argued for mercy, citing the Eternals' contributions to galactic civilization. Others demanded justice, pointing to the magnitude of their crimes. The humans watched silently, their technology making them effectively gods among the species they had once sought to join as equals. There is one thing you should know, Dr. Chen said finally, silencing the chamber. When our ancestors fled in the generation ships, they took something with them. Something they found in Earth's final days. She nodded to a technical officer, who activated another holographic display. The image showed a massive structure, clearly of non-human origin, discovered beneath Earth's surface. This was the real reason for your attack, wasn't it? She asked the Eternals. Not our rapid advancement. Not our unpredictability. You discovered we had found this, and you panicked. The Eternals' perfect faces showed shock. Eternal Science Darlon spoke first. How did you know? We've had 3,000 years to decrypt your records, analyze your actions, understand your true motives, Dr. Chen explained. This artifact was left by the precursors, the species that seeded our galaxy with life. You feared we would unlock its secrets before you could. And you were right to fear that. She gestured, and the hologram changed, showing vast structures hidden in dark space. We did unlock its secrets. All of them. Our technology, our understanding of the universe, it's not just 3,000 years of development. We found what the precursors left behind, and we learned. The chamber erupted again as the implications became clear. Humanity hadn't just advanced beyond the Council's understanding, they had discovered the legacy of the galaxy's first and greatest civilization. Admiral Stone raised his hand for silence. This trial isn't about the precursors or their legacy. It's about justice. About accountability for crimes that shaped the destiny of two civilizations. The question before us is simple: what punishment fits a crime that echoes across millennia? The arbitrator turned to the human delegation. You have proven your power. You could destroy the Council as they tried to destroy you. What is it you truly want? Stone and Chen exchanged looks. Humanity had waited 3,000 years for this moment. They had prepared, advanced, grown stronger than anyone could have imagined. And now, with absolute power in their hands, they faced the same choice the Council had faced 3 millennia ago. The fate of civilizations hung in the balance as Admiral Stone stood to deliver humanity's decision. The judgment. Admiral Stone rose slowly, carrying the weight of 3,000 years of history. The chamber fell silent, Council members and humans alike waiting to hear humanity's verdict. 3,000 years ago, he began, your Council faced a choice. You could welcome humanity as equals or destroy us out of fear. You chose destruction. Now we face the same choice. He activated a holographic display, showing Earth's remains, a field of asteroids where a living world once thrived. We could destroy you as you tried to destroy us. Our technology surpasses your understanding. Our fleets could reduce your worlds to ash. Justice, some would say, demands equivalence. Dr. Chen stood beside him, her voice carrying the collected wisdom of generations. But there's something you never understood about humanity. Something fundamental that led to your fatal mistake 3,000 years ago. The hologram shifted, showing the human worlds hidden in dark space, vast cities beneath alien oceans, stations that harness the power of black holes, ships that could bend reality itself. You saw our potential for destruction, Chen continued. But you missed our capacity for growth, for learning, for transcending our limitations. In trying to destroy us, you forced us to become something greater than we ever imagined. Admiral Stone nodded to his technical officers. Around the Council worlds, the massive human fleet began to move. Council members tensed, expecting annihilation. Instead, the ships took up defensive positions, their advanced sensors scanning deep space. Humanity's judgment is this, Stone announced. The 7 Eternals will surrender their life extension technology. They will live out their natural lifespans facing the consequences of their actions. But we will not execute them, because we are not executioners. He turned to address the Council representatives directly. Your civilization will be reformed, not destroyed. Your military power will be reduced and monitored, but not eliminated. And humanity will take its place not as your conquerors, but as your protectors. The chamber erupted in confused murmurs. Eternal Prime Shivar stood, his perfect features twisted with disbelief. Protectors? From what? Dr. Chen activated another hologram, showing readings from deep space that made the Council's scientists gasp. In our exile, we discovered things you never imagined. Threats you never knew existed. The precursors didn't just leave behind technology, they left warnings. The display showed massive objects moving in the intergalactic void, things that defied conventional physics and biology. They're coming, Chen said simply. The things that drove the precursors to extinction. The real reason they seeded our galaxy with life, hoping some species would evolve enough to face what they could not. Admiral Stone's voice carried across the chamber. Humanity could destroy the Council. We could take revenge for Earth. But that would leave our galaxy vulnerable to what's coming. We chose a different path. We advanced, we grew, we prepared, not just for revenge, but for survival. All of us. He gestured, and the hologram showed the full extent of human civilization, millions of worlds, technology that bordered on magic, defenses that could repel threats the Council had never dreamed of. This is our judgment, Stone declared. The Council will be reformed. The Eternals will face justice. But humanity will not perpetuate the cycle of destruction. Instead, we offer what you should have offered us 3,000 years ago, partnership. Because the real test of civilization isn't how we treat our enemies, but whether we can rise above vengeance when justice is in our hands. The human fleet's energy patterns shifted, their black holes and blue energy lines forming new configurations. Rather than weapons of war, they revealed themselves as shields, protecting not just human space, but the entire galaxy. 3,000 years ago, you feared what humanity might become, Dr. Chen said softly. You never imagined we might become your salvation. The arbitrator stood, its ancient form radiating approval. The judgment is recorded. Let it be known that humanity, when holding the power of gods, chose wisdom over vengeance, protection over destruction. The Reformed Council accepts these terms. As the chamber processed this unprecedented decision, Admiral Stone watched the tactical displays showing movement in intergalactic space. The real war was coming, not between species or civilizations, but between all life in the galaxy and something older, darker, and infinitely more dangerous. Humanity had returned not just as conquerors or avengers, but as guardians. They had transcended their pain, transformed their exile into unprecedented advancement, and chosen to protect even those who had once tried to destroy them. The children of Earth had indeed returned. But they had returned not to end civilization, but to save it. In deep space, the human fleet stood watch, their technology ready to face threats the Council had never imagined. 3,000 years of preparation had led not to revenge, but to redemption. And in that choice lay humanity's greatest victory, not the power to destroy their enemies, but the wisdom to transcend destruction itself. The real test of civilization was just beginning.